Hello, good afternoon all, and myself Dr. Pitambar Humne, founder Botany for You and working as Associate Professor and Head Department of Botany, Dharampet MP Dev Memorial Science College, Nagpur. Today we are going to start our 6 days induction program for the students of Life Sciences scheduled from 15th December to 20th December 2020. In this induction program, we have the 6 different sessions, and today we are going to start our first session with the eminent personality in the field of science and spiritualism. So I'm heartily welcome you, Dr. Vishwas Chavan sir, in this online platform Botany for You. And I request Dr. Deepak Koche, who is founder member of Botany for You and working as Professor in Department of Botany, Shri Shivaji College of Arts, Commerce and Science, Akola, Maharashtra. So I request Dr. Deepak Koche to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Vishwas Chavan. Deepak, please.
Thank you, Dr. Pitambar. Hello, everyone. A very good afternoon. I'm Dr. Deepak Koche, founder member of Botany for You, and I'm here to introduce our eminent speaker for the induction program, Dr. VISHWAS CHAVAN. Dr. VISHWAS CHAVAN is known for its revolutionary views on soul, success, and spirituality. Dr. Vishwas has had an amazing journey of self-evolution, self-transformation, from a slum boy to a science diplomat, to an author, to an inspirational speaker, success strategist, transformational mentor, and spiritualist. Dr. Vishwas has over 25 years of experience in the field of knowledge management. Due to his research in science knowledge management, Dr. Vishwas is often invited by academic, research and development institutions, business enterprises, and national government to benefit from his expertise. Dr. Vishwas has started his career as a scientist at the National Institute of Oceanography, NIO, Goa, as an information officer in 1991 till 1996. He then shifted to the Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology, CCMB, Hyderabad, as scientist in charge of Bioinformatics facility and remained there till 2000. Later, he shifted to the National Chemical Laboratory, NCL, Pune, as head Biodiversity Informatics Unit till 2007. In 2007, he was invited to join the Global Biodiversity Information Facility, it is GBIF, Copenhagen, as the Senior Program Officer, Content Mobilization and Digitalization of the Biological Collections, a position he held till 2014. During his 25 years of the scientific and diplomatic career, Dr. Vishwas has awarded with prestigious Fulbright Fellowship as well as Royal Dutch Fellowship. He has written over 50 scientific research papers, including in Nature and other high impact factor journals. Dr. Vishwas is known as pioneer in conceptualizing data publishing framework for biodiversity data. Friends, Dr. Vishwas is born activator. He strongly believes that only action can make things happen. This is evident from his achievements in the field of science and information management. Being futuristic, Dr. Vishwas loves to peer over the horizon. In fact, it is the future that fascinates him. He has a strong conviction that it is good to be alive. A prolific writer and inspirational speaker, Dr. Vishwas has a literary bent of mind. Some of most sought after products of Dr. Vishwas includes Vishwa Sutra, it is Universal Principle of Living, then Panchasutra, 5 Fundamental Principles of Success, 10 Spiritual Laws of Entrepreneurship, then Spiritual Secrets of Being an Innovator, etc. Since 2014, through his School of Inspirational Living, Dr. Vishwas is a well sought after life and success coach, entrepreneurship mentor, transformational agent, as well as relationship counselor. So friends, we are fortunate enough to have Dr. Vishwas with us, and we are starting this induction program with his talk. So thank you, Dr. Viswas, for accepting our invitation. And now, without taking much time, I invite Dr. Viswas for his talk. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Deepak.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Koche, and thank you, Dr. Humne. It is indeed a great pleasure to you are organizing. At the outset, let me say that this is a absolutely novel enterprise, and for that, let me congratulate the team that is behind this whole event and enterprise. Uh, I was initially asked by Professor Humne to talk about the uh, opportunities for science students, especially the biology, in the field of biodiversity and biodiversity informatics, something with which I have dealt for 3 decades or more. Uh, as to what I would talk with you, I quickly realized that the opportunities in these fields are too many, tremendous opportunities. There's a high degree of potential. But at the same time, uh, we are unable to reap the benefits. Our students, especially from the regions of Vidarbha or underdeveloped regions of the part of the country, are unable to take benefits of these opportunities. So I thought instead of talking about the opportunities themselves, let's talk about how can we empower the students community or the researchers community in the field of biodiversity and biodiversity informatics to be capable enough to grab these opportunities. And it is therefore today I'm going to talk about the 10 principles of biodiversity governance. And when you talk about biodiversity governance, this automatically means that you are going to play a key central role in these governance activities. And therefore, it will definitely address your major concerns of future for me in the field of biodiversity and biodiversity informatics. So with that set of introduction, let me share a screen with you, um, and take you through the journey. Okay. So is my screen visible to everybody?
Not yet, sir.
Okay, it is asking me to take these steps. Okay, security, privacy. Uh, okay, what do I have to do?
Just you have to okay. You have to do it. Uh,
And it is asking me something to do with screen recording and
yes,
Google.
yes. The screen will be recorded when you will be live.
Okay, but it is not. Uh, okay. Uh, okay. No. Follow these steps and Mac go system preference uh, and privacy and security. System preference. Then let me go to privacy and security and privacy. Security and privacy. Okay. Then let me screen record. Screen recording. Okay. And this is Google Chrome. Just a minute. Privacy. Google Chrome. Uh, desktop. Screen recording. Okay. 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 I think it should. Okay. Now, is it coming?
No, sir.
Not yet. Okay. Then I will have to re. Mhm. Okay. Now.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Okay. So, what I'm going to talk with all of you is what I call as a spiritual laws of biodiversity governance. This is actually something that I'm speaking for second time only, and this is a title of one of my upcoming book. I have spent about 3 decades in the field of biodiversity science, and also in the field of research, innovation, and knowledge management. And what I have realized is that we all are doing cut, copy, paste jobs. India has become a factory of slaves in the field of science, technology, and innovation rather than the innovators themselves who can realize and work upon fundamental problems. The problems, whatever knowledge that we generate from these problems or these research works, can be a leading research work. So, definitely, we are lacking on that. And that's my humble feeling after being in different parts of the world as a science diplomat. So, let's just limit our conversations to the field of biodiversity. Let's look at biodiversity in the national or international context. Uh, as a global community or human species, we are very good on setting our own deadlines and then faltering our own deadlines when it comes to the sustainable resource management, when it comes to biodiversity. And the better example, I mean, what could be the worst example of it is the 2010-2020 decadal strategic plan by the Convention on Biological Diversity. Even before the plan was agreed upon, we all knew that we are not going to meet our own set of deadlines. And therefore, right in the beginning, we started talking about 2050 vision for biodiversity. So, what is 2050 vision for biodiversity? It says that biodiversity should be valued, it should be conserved, it should be restored, and it should be widely used, as well as we should make all efforts to maintain the ecosystem services for the sustained and healthy planet so that we can recover, we can reap the benefits. Now, how is India's track record in the field of biodiversity is that we are a 17 mega biodiversity countries, one of the 5 nations which has submitted the 6th national report. Our total investment is to the tune of 70,000 crores per annum for the purpose of biodiversity exploration, conservation, and sustainable use. Okay, now it is a huge investment. 70,000 rupees, a crores rupees, are invested every year by the government of India. However, it is much less compared to what we should have spent. We should have spent 1,09,000 crores per annum. Therefore, we can't say that we are pro, I mean, we have done exceptionally well in the field of biodiversity conservation. Okay. Now, how can India do better with a minimalistic investment? And that's where I bring in the two different aspects of science and spirituality together. Commonly, it is believed that both science and spirituality are two different aspects and completely opposite to each other. Well, if you look very minutely, then you realize that both science and community, science and spirituality are the two sides of the same coin called truth. Both are seeking for truth. One is the truth in the outside world, and the another one seeking the truth inside of you. Okay, that's spirituality. So spirituality is a science. It's not what we normally garbled with the term religion. It is a science in its own, but it's a science of highest knowing or purest knowing. And which is that object of a highest or purest knowing? It is you. Okay, so therefore science, spirituality is oriented towards yourself, where science is oriented towards some particular object. That I want to understand the flora and fauna, I want to understand the principles of electricity, or I want to understand the principles of building dams or constructing roads or a rocket to be launched. So it's oriented towards the external world. But if you do not understand who you yourself are, then I don't think you will be able to understand the objects externally as well. So therefore, I consider the spiritual science as a highest of the science of science, and the object-oriented traditional science that we do is part of that larger emphasis, larger enterprise. Now, you may quickly ask you, what is this all about? I'm interested in jobs. I'm interested in profession. And that's exactly what we are going to talk about today. Because if you look at the qualities of the biodiversity researchers, explorer, or a conservationist, if you truly want to be a true researcher, what are the specific characteristics that we look at? The characteristics that we look at is somebody who can think divergently, somebody who has insatiable curiosity. Unless you don't have a curiosity, you won't be able to get into the field of research. You won't be able to get into the field of knowledge management. You won't be able to get into the field of sustainable development. You need to have infectious passion. You need to have untiring stamina. No matter what happens, you will continue to do your research years after years, even if you have setbacks and failures. At the same time, if you really want to shine as a researcher, then you need to have compelling leadership. You need to have, at the same time, respect for other innovators. You can't be jealous about somebody else's leadership or somebody else's achievement. And most importantly, you need to have a fearless courage to dive into the area where others have not gone. Otherwise, look at our science. Somebody has worked on a rice genome, so we will work on wheat genome. Somebody has worked on garlic, then we will work on ginger. Somebody has worked on a human sequence, so we will go to a monkey sequence. That's the kind of cut paste kind of science that we are doing. And this is happening because our own understanding about ourselves is lacking. And that is why I'm putting for this audience the 10 spiritual laws of biodiversity governance. The first law is called the law of cosmic awareness. What does that mean? Let me explain this law with an example. A young researcher, maybe Professor Humne's student, who has been working on some topic because Professor Humne has guided him well. Then he publishes a paper in a journal called Current Science or some national level journal or international level journal. Then suddenly that individual starts to think that, oh, I am a super shot. I have achieved everything. He becomes full of ego. Then he thinks others are good for nothing. And that's exactly where our understanding of law of cosmic awareness comes into the picture. What does the law say? It says all of the principles, phenomena, systems, mechanisms that human desire to explore, discover, and research upon do exist in functional state in the cosmos. We need to be aware of the fact that the cosmos, all living beings and non-living beings, has within it that vitality, that strength to gather from itself all things necessary for its growth, its fruition, its disintegration, and its transformation. With innate and pure awareness, we are able to learn to be aware, receiving impulses and information and processing this information, trying it out, applying it, and sharing it with others. So let me explain this in a very simple language. Law of gravity or electricity or phone. Somebody discovered it and we call them innovators. But was it law of gravity in functional state even before somebody discovered it? Or in a biodiversity science, we say, I have discovered the red frog, or I have discovered the new species of king cobra. Well, wasn't that species already available even before it was discovered by you? The answer is yes, it was available. So what does it mean? It just means कि आप अब तक उस स्पीशीज के बारे में अशिक्षित थे, अज्ञानी थे, आज आप उसके बारे में ज्ञानी बन गए हो. You were illiterate about that part of the cosmic functionalities, and now today you have become an aware. So it is like saksharta abhiyam. So all those researchers who thinks no end of themselves should realize that what they are trying to search or research is already existing. So you are not doing any great discovery. It is just that to illiterate humanity, you are helping them to become literate about that functionality in the cosmos that already exists. Why this law is therefore important? Because this law is going to keep you on the ground. Otherwise, with a little bit of success in science and technology, as an innovator or as a researcher, you are going to think that there is no end to myself. And you will be full of ego. You will be full of vengeance. You will be full of jealousy. And I'll come to that later down the line. So that's the first law. But at the same time, the second law is the law of pure potentiality. And it is to translate this law in a simple terms means impossible is nothing. And risk management is key to success. That means today, if I decide that I have to discover X things, the very reason that thought has come to you means that particular functionality is available in the nature. That means you just have to reach out to it. Okay. So in an essential state, we are a pure consciousness. Therefore, it means that you have to dream your research. You have to dream your existence in this world. And there is nothing is impossible. You can create infinite success for yourself in a given profession, provided you bear in mind that what you are going to research or invest or conserve, that principle already exists in the nature. And therefore, on one side, in the first law, we are keeping an humbleness that we are not doing any significant something purely new. In the second law, we feel and we need to abreast ourselves that anything that I think to achieve or I think of creating, it is possible for me to do because nature does provide all that I want to create. In fact, all those principles, all those phenomena are already functioning in the nature. I'm just creating them in a visible form so that other human beings can say, wow, I have achieved the success. So that's a law of pure potentiality. But the law of pure potentiality will not happen if you do not take care of this third law, the law of power of empowered self. You have to empower yourselves to conduct that kind of research, conservation activities, or the innovations, or conduct the job of your dream. That means you have to feel internally that you are capable of doing it. And that can only happen through the process of empowered self. Now, when I talk about empowered self, what does it mean? Do you have self-awareness? Do you have self-confidence? Do you have self-discipline? Do you have self-esteem? And do you love yourself? See, the only job that you can do well is the one that you like to do. Now, you wouldn't like to do what you do if you are not getting any pleasure out of it or satisfaction out of it. Now, to get that sense of satisfaction or pleasure, you need to first love yourself. Unfortunately, since childhood, we have been told that you can't love yourself because that's a selfish act. Well, if you can't love yourself, how can you love others? Or how can you love your job? सिर्फ पैसों के लिए तो आप कुछ भी कर सकते हैं. But that's not your objective in life. If that's the objective that most of you have, then I'm talking to the wrong audience. And I hope I'm not talking to the wrong audience. So with the self-love, you will realize what your potential is, what inherent capacities you have. With that awareness will come the confidence. Confidence can be taught. Confidence is like a physical training. Okay? People say, I lack confidence. And I say, practice confidence, you will get confidence. With confidence will come discipline. Nobody can succeed without a self-discipline. As this webinar today started exactly at 3 o'clock, that's a discipline. And that discipline is very important. With all of this, you will have a self-esteem. But only self-empowerment, is it going to help you? Well, I am a very empowered person, but I don't know what to do. And therefore comes the fourth law, the law of conscious dreaming. Chamatkar ya miracle is nothing but a pinnacle of success. चमत्कार यश का सर्वोत्तम पीक है या बिंदु है, उसे ही मिराकल कहते हैं. And therefore, through conscious dreaming, you can invite miracle in your life. There is no limit to your imagination, visualization, and ability to dream. And you need to dream consciously, not in the sleep. You need to dream with a pen and paper in your hand, without any fear or favor. How many of you have written on a piece of paper or in a diary as to where you want to be 5 years down the line, where you want to be 10 years down the line? And how many of you have guts to write it on a big board and share it with others? I do that. The question is, do you do that? And unless and until you don't do that, your dreams will not come into reality. I have roamed around different parts of the world. my first job was cleaning the toilets of the municipal corporation. I never thought I would be a science diplomat, let alone thinking about being an author and inspirational speaker. But somewhere down the line, I had written each one of my achievements into my diary, and I have already written it and I have verbalized it. Even if my friends, my colleagues, my family, and the society in large has at times made fun of me. Because if a boy who cleans the toilet comes and says that I one day will fly in a first class air travel, anybody around me could say that, hey, just zamini par raha. Okay. So, but I know what potential I have. Okay. Therefore, you need to think about and write about everything that you want to achieve in the profession of biodiversity, informatics, or for that matter, in any profession. In fact, I'm going to demystify something, that it is exactly these 10 principles you can apply in any sphere of your life, irrespective of whether you want to build your career in science or technology or in biodiversity informatics. Okay. So therefore, I feel that we should write down our dreams consciously. You should have ability to share your dreams. That will give you self-confidence, that will empower yourself more. The next very important um question or very important character of a researcher is his ability to question, is his curiosity, his inquisitiveness. Are you able to ask questions that are discomforting to you and to your peers? And this is exactly where I'm going to beat a little bit more. I'm sorry, I see that most of the students, especially those who come into the field of science, technology, and research, are becoming a puppet of their guides. Obviously, guides hold the key that unless he doesn't sign on your project, you don't get a degree. I think that's a slavery of knowledge. That's a slavery of the worst kind. I would rather prefer to have a student who asks questions. I would rather prefer to have a guide who, in spite of his ability or inability of answering a question, welcome the question, welcome the curiosity. नहीं तो हमारे यहाँ क्या होता है, अबे तुझे क्या समझता है, मेरे बाल सफेद हो गए हैं. That सफेद हो गया attitude is unbecoming of a guide, and if the student is tolerating, it is unbecoming of the student itself. Because unless you don't ask the question, you would not dive deep into the problem. And unless you don't dive deep into the problem, you will not know the truth of the problem. That means you will never discover the principle. If the person who has invented telephone would not have asked the question whether it is possible or not possible to communicate remotely from two different locations, we would not have telephones today. And forget about the mobile phones, or we would not have been having this webinar itself. So when we are living in the law of inquisitiveness, you question everything, not in a challenging way, but in a probing, curious, and inquiring manner. And this is very important. I go to different seminars and meetings. There will be one or two individuals who will always ask the question. And they simply ask the question not because they are interested in knowing something. They only want to impress the people around. Ki I'm the better of you. Vasrat langdi gai shahani. That kind of approach. That is a challenging, that is actually an egoistic approach. So don't ask questions unless you don't have a truest passion to probe and explore the answer. Okay, so there is a difference in how you ask the questions also. So just if you want to put down your guide and you go and ask some Tom, Dick, and Harry's questions, that's not going to be an truthful with the law of inquisitiveness. So your question into the issue at hand should be in a manner which is positively disruptive, creatively rebel, and you need to ask that without any fear, favor, and expectations. And what kind of questions you should ask? Rather than asking how I'm going to achieve this, ask why you want to achieve what you want to achieve. Followed by what, when, where, and for whom I'm doing this research, or for whom I'm into the profession of science, technology, and innovation. So with this law of inquisitiveness comes how to do it. Now you have a question, but you cannot solve the questions without planning. Human beings have not gone onto the moon without proper planning. There have been several experiments done before actually man set his foot on the moon surface. A lot of planning has gone into it. So every single minute spent in planning saves significant time needed for executing your experiment. The purpose of strategic planning is to increase your return on energy. So planning is important. Simply because your guide has said work on X topic, well, think about what you will require to work on that topic. Do this SWOT analysis. Okay, strength, opportunities, and weakness analysis. Plan it. Plan every steps, because planning will improve efficiency, productivity, and effectiveness. Set smart goals. And when I say smart, it means specific goals which are measurable, which are actionable, which are realistic, and something that you can achieve in time bound. नहीं तो हमारे यहाँ बच्चे लोग करते रहते हैं PhDs and other things 5 years, 10 years. You know, नहीं मैं research कर रहा हूँ. Well, it is not going to keep you surviving for a long time. And then comes most important law, the law of action. And in terms of science and technology in biodiversity conservation, it translates to innovation management, because action leads to success. You need to have consistent efforts and compounding actions. Okay? And there are 4 qualities that you need to have embedded in your action. And these are belief, execution, excellence, and compounding efforts. You do little by little every day, and you will realize you have crossed a distance of 1,000 miles. Okay? And it is in this context, I always say that when a people with unshakable instinct for survival put their acts together, they can achieve what might seem impossible to others. It is exactly in this law of action the leadership matters. Whom are you leading? Unless you don't lead yourself first, you will not be able to lead others. In terms of science, technology, and biodiversity conservation, leadership comes handy because you have to seek collaborations. Today, people like to be in their silo and do their work, not talking to others. The nature, that is anti-nature. The nature itself is an act of symbiosis. It's act of gelling together. It's act of coexistence. So how can your research activities or your biodiversity informatics management activities be in silos? They have to be together with other people. That brings to the most important law, the law of knowledge management. You know, people do research and they write publications. Until they write publications, they don't share the data. They will never share the data with their next door colleague. एक भारतीय दूसरे भारतीय के साथ अपना डेटा तो शेयर ही नहीं करता है. But I will share the same data with somebody in Europe or America or Australia because मुझे एक ट्रिप मिलेगा. Now that's not the right approach. And let me put yet another thought. When you do the research, you are not owner of that research. You may take benefit as a intellectual property, but think about this. You are servant to the people. The people of this nation has given you the responsibility to do the work for which you are being paid through taxpayers' money. So you are simply a custodian of the knowledge. You are not the owner of the knowledge. And therefore, you have no reason to hide the data for your selfish gains. Because ultimately, knowledge is meant to be used for well-being of the cosmos, planet, and ultimately all living and non-living beings, most importantly, the human beings. And therefore, you are not the owner of the data or information or knowledge. You are simply the custodian. Your scope in handling such knowledge is limited to its preservation, exchange sharing, and application of it towards common goods and to ensure its fair use. Therefore, if your intention is to share it with everybody, I think you will prosper much quicker and much better. In my own 3.5 decades of experience, I have spoken about several ideas and concepts. And my whole work is in information management as a biodiversity informatician. You know, nobody has picked up the ideas that doesn't attract to themselves. So everybody will pick up. And so therefore, don't have this misunderstanding that somebody will chorify your ideas. They will steal your ideas. Nobody has time to steal your ideas. Your ideas are your ideas, and only you can work on your ideas. But that doesn't mean that you cannot share with others, because sharing is caring and sharing is prospering. So knowledge management is a continuous process, and unless you do not have a courage to share the knowledge, don't be in a field of science, technology, and innovation. Let me come back to the last two laws. The law of serving. What does it mean? That when you do the research, check out your intentions. When you are in particular job, check out your intention. Is your intention only to get salary at the end of the month? Or is your intention to only graduate from MSc to PhD? Or is it your intention only to jump from assistant professor to associate professor to professor, and professor to vice chancellor? Boss, if that is your intention, then you better quit. Your intention has to be for a sustainable development. Your intention has to be for prosperity of the nation. Your intention has to be for human well-being. and well-being of other species. Unless your अगर आपकी नीयत ठीक नहीं है ना, तो आपकी नीति भी ठीक नहीं होती. नीति is planning, and planning is based on bad niyat, then you will not reap the benefits. And therefore, let me bring you to the last law. And that last law is law of spiritual being. Why are we doing all this research, innovation? Why are we in the business of biodiversity informatics? We are in search of the truth. We are in search of the trust that builds the relationship between the species, the relationship that builds between the living and non-living being, the relationship between the weather and the crop, the relationship between the flood and the disappearance of the species or appearance of the some other species. The wonderful example of this is a COVID period. During the lockdown, we stopped interfering with the nature. And what was the result? The birds started coming to the trees. There were no sound pollution, but there were music of the birds early in the morning. The Ganges started to clean itself. So what it means? It means that yes, you have all the rights to know the principle, but you don't have to breach the truth. You don't have to breach the trust. You don't have to pollute something. And most importantly, you have to have a sense of gratitude, gratefulness, and compassion for the nature. And you have to adhere to the ethics and ethical practices, saying no to duplication, replication, and plagiarism. If you think you can imbibe few or all of these spiritual principles that I have elucidated today, then I feel that you will have a bright future as a researcher. You will have a bright days ahead as a biodiversity conservationist or as a knowledge manager. Therefore, as an innovator, it is essential to know that we are all born spiritual, wherein intelligence is born within us. Therefore, first of all, ask the question, who am I? What is my purpose as a human being? What do I want to achieve in this lifetime? And what impact I would like to leave behind when I'm no more existing on this planet Earth? And if you have the answers to these 3-4 questions, then you can shine into any sphere, in any profession, may leave alone this profession of biodiversity informatics. And therefore, it is my belief as well as experience that if one attempts to understand and assimilate these principles, you will for sure emerge as an ideal conservator, biodiversity explorer, and sustainability practitioner. So these are the 10 quick laws that I have shared. I know one can't talk about this into 40 minutes or 45 minutes. In fact, I recollect my very first talk with Professor Humne, and I told him that we will have a series of these spiritual principles being elucidated, explained through series of webinars. May it be each day we can take one principle, talk about it, and then along with that, there will be set of exercises given. You do the exercises and you do the self-assessment and evaluation, and you will see in a span of about 2 weeks, there will be a significant change in your personality. There will be significant empowerment that you will be able to achieve. And with that empowerment, then you will be able to have the strength and courage to take on any challenge in the field of science, technology, innovation, let alone be in the field of biodiversity and biodiversity informatics. So, Professor Humne, my offer still opens up. It's still valid. It's still out there for you and your group. Obviously, I'm not going to do it free for a simple reason that if anything comes free, then you don't have a value of it. And therefore, these are the same principles that I keep talking into research institutions both within India and overseas. And I'll be very happy to actually share this in detail at a great length with our own students, our own teaching faculty, and the research faculty back here in India as well. I hope I have made some sense today. I have not demoralized you, but I have put in a fuel of inspiration in your soul and in your mind. Uh, with this, I would stop. And if there are any specific questions, then I'm happy to take them up.
There was only one question from one of the participant that where we have to apply for the projects on biodiversity and biodiversity informatics.
Well, the opportunities are absolutely many, many. Depends on what is your topic. If you look at in the Indian context, incidentally, Government of India has launched what is called National Biodiversity Mission. For the first time in the independent India, there is a dedicated mission being launched at the level of Prime Minister's Science, Technology and Innovation Council on biodiversity. And it has got slightly delayed due to COVID situation. But post-COVID, I think there will be immense opportunity to write grants. And in the existing circumstances, in fact, incidentally, there is a paper that I published just 2 days back on electronic people's biodiversity register. I would highly encourage you to look at the paper. It is published in Economic and Political Review on the national framework on PBR and EPBRs. And there are again a lot of potentials there for you to engage as a student, as a professor, and as a researcher. For instance, if you have to apply in the field of biotechnology, then you apply to Department of Biotechnology. If you are doing ecological research, then you can submit your research work or a proposal to Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. If you are working into the knowledge management, then there are each of the government departments have specific programs to knowledge management. If I keep on enlisting, then it is endless. And that is exactly why I deliberately did not do that. I rather thought that instead of looking at opportunity and then working for that opportunity is like कोणाच्या घरात जास्त जेवण आहे त्याच्या घरी मी कसा पोचेन असं बघण्यासारखं आहे. रादर यू फर्स्ट एक्सप्लोर विद इन यू की तुम्हाला किती भूक आहे and then accordingly you go and find the resource. So my submission is other way around. First you decide what area you want to work, and then once your conceptualization is correct, then you try to think about where I can apply for the researcher, where I can apply for the grant. Rather than asking these questions, where should I apply? You can apply anywhere. But decide first what you want to apply for, why you want to apply, what you want to achieve, and for whom you want to achieve. Okay, those are the Most important question.
One more question is given. Which of the following represents maximum number of field among global biodiversity?
Which of the
Which of the following represents maximum number of field among global biodiversity? I could
Now,
not
I don't
understand the
understand
proper
the
meaning.
question.
Ah,
The question itself is probably something that I am not able to answer, and
I
I'm
think
not able to understand. If you can explain it to me.
he is asking regarding the different fields which can be studied in the global biodiversity.
Fields are many, right? From microorganisms to dinosaurs, their interrelationships, genetic sequences, agrobiodiversity, ecosystems management, sustainable societies, sustainable urban communities, the conflict between human and wildlife, conflict between international policies and resource exploitation. So, fields are many, and that's why I asked, instead of asking for fields, you first think about what you would like to work. Okay, take down those 10 spiritual laws that I just spoken about. On those lines, ask your questions to yourself and not to someone else, and you will find out what is your passionate work that you want to do. From there on, you can explore the opportunities for funding. In fact, Professor Hupne, what I do in my programs, based on these 10 laws, there is a self-assessment worksheet that I provide. Okay, so the researcher or the students or a teacher or a guide themselves, able to self-assess, be able to find out what is his passionate task or his dream, and then from there on they can craft and they can plan. So I think we have to change this philosophy of being a slave, कि जहां पैसा है वहां मैं हूं. That is not how it's going to take you to the success. You first decide where you want to reach and then plan accordingly whether there are opportunities in that area or not. You can create the opportunities for yourself. Let me share my own personal story. I did my bachelor's in zoology. I did my master's in environment. And then when I became a scientist at the National Institute of Oceanography, I was working on biodiversity management, data and information management. I was not computer literate. I'm an accidental informatician. Okay? But I created my own opportunities. In 1990s, when I was working in biodiversity informatics, many in this country who were working in genetic sequences and so-called bioinformatics ridiculed me, saying that he can't understand ATGC sequences, so he's working on species and ecosystems. But I continue to create my own opportunities and my own platforms. And look at today, when they talk about first 10 people in the field of biodiversity and ecosystems informatics, they talk about Vishwas. When they talk about data publishing framework in biodiversity, they talk about my work. When they talk about publishing data, reviewed paper based on scientific data and descriptions of data, they talk about the data paper concepts that I brought in 2012, for which I was being ridiculed for 2 decades. Not one, but 2 decades, including a journal like Nature. After I successfully put forward the concept and the first few examples, the big journals like Nature came on board, and Nature has its own data journal now. So think about your impacts, think about your influence for your work, rather than thinking about मुझे कैसे फायदा होगा? That's not the way to think about it. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Humne.
Thank you very much, sir. As everyone knows in the field of life sciences, the ecology, environment, and biodiversity is least studied as compared to the other core subject in the universe. But whenever we are talking about the existence of the human beings and other species in the environment, how the conservation of environment and other abiotic components in the ecosystem is important for the sustainable development of every species in the nature, means towards the walk towards the sustainable development. And if we want to study such a type of the very important topic in the future for the research, then which type of the quality we must have initially, and how we must be the focused before going to choose a particular topic for the research, that has been very well explained by Dr. Vishwas Chavan. And I know the Vishwas Chavan is a complete wealth of the knowledge on the spiritualism, and even his itself a story is a inspiration to everyone who is working in the field of science. So earlier, as per our discussion, we will definitely organize one of the program in association to that of School of Inspirational Science and Botany for you, so that it will be easy for us for the organization also. And at that time, we will offer you that you can complete your series of different lectures for the students in life sciences as well as the others who would like to join with us through this online platform Botany for you. Thank you very much, Dr. Vishwas Chavan, sir, for providing your valuable time to us and enlightened our students and giving the very nice informative lecture through this YouTube channel, Botany for You, which we are working for the students of life sciences through the education opportunities, then research opportunities, routine classroom teaching we are going to start shortly for the UG and the PG classes, so that during the COVID-19 pandemic, even the students who don't have the experts in their colleges or in their areas, they can get the benefit of the experts all over the nation. And along with this, we are also providing some knowledge regarding the competitive examination as well as the personality development through this online platform. And I am very much confident and hopeful that this lecture as well as the other events that we are continuously going to organize through our online platform are very much important and helpful and advantageous to the students. And this lecture is very informative and very much helpful to each and everyone in the life sciences who is interested in entering the research field. And definitely, I am hopeful that you are completely succeed in introducing the curiosity among the students. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir, for sparing your time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.